Just tell me, obviously you have a lot of the team returning this season, but what feels different about this team maybe than last year? Overall thoughts on the team at this point?
I mean, the experience in itself. The experience is unlike anything I've ever experienced here. They're just so confident. They're familiar with what they need to do, and I think that's the biggest difference. When you come off a successful year, and playing in regionals and super regionals in front of your home crowd, you want that again. So it's made them hungry. It's also given them an idea on what is possible. And they never had that before. This group has never ever been in that situation to know what is possible. They've had dreams of going to the College World Series, but never ever actually had an avenue to get there. And now that they have that avenue and they understand what they need to do, it's like they have the stepping stones in place in order to get to that ultimate prize at the end. And that's the experience that I'm seeing that's being passed down throughout the whole team.
I was talking, obviously earlier we talked to Brooke, and she was saying that when you first got here, you hung a picture of the College World Series in the locker room. It said it's always been the standard, kind of talk about that mentality. She said it really hasn't changed much since even last year.
No, it hasn't. And I can tell you that once you figure out the why and what you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it, then you have to spell out how you're going to get there. And you could say, yeah, we want to go to the College World Series, and that's what it looks like. But how are you going to get to the College World Series? Well, we're going to get there by dominating our non-conference games. We're going to get there by finishing the top half of the SEC, because we know everyone in the SEC goes. We're going to get there by hosting. So you spell those things out to your players. Now they know what the expectations are. So now they're just not going out like a rudderless ship. They actually have some direction of what they're trying to accomplish.
They mentioned also the underdog mentality is still there. Obviously ranked at number 11. They said higher than last year, right? But, is that underdog? How important is that underdog mentality to this team?
That's our mentality. That's our philosophy. We are a blue-collar mentality team. We will always be that as long as I'm the head coach here. We pick up after practice. Our kids are setting up practice. We're not spoiled brats. And I understand that the opportunity they have playing in the SEC and how they do get a lot of materials and different equipment and things like that, but they have to earn it. They have to respect the opportunity and they have to appreciate the opportunity. So that's that blue-collar mentality that we always will instill. And it's also explaining that we will outwork everybody. It doesn't matter who we're facing on the field. We are going to outwork them. We've worked harder than them. You're more prepared than them. So when they start to believe in that work ethic, now they can just go out in the field and truly believe that they're better than everybody.
Was that an easy transition last year, the success you had? Was it kind of where you had to remind them of that, or do you think that was something they already had? They're like, okay, we're still the underdogs. Nothing's changed type thing.
When the first poll came out, they were feeling pretty good about themselves. And they've earned it, and it's great to see that they're getting the respect from everybody else around the country. I mean, that's the difference. They're getting the respect, where I think in the past they felt that they deserved more, and they did. They just weren't getting the votes, and they were in the polls. So they've earned those rankings. But I have to also bring them back down to reality that ranking doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean we've accomplished anything. If that ranking is the same in May and going into June, okay, now you've accomplished something. But just because you're preseason ranked doesn't mean you're starting the season 9-0. You're still starting 0-0 just like everybody else.
Obviously a lot of success with your hitters last year. Where do you feel like that group is at? Obviously, a coaching change in the offseason. So kind of where do you feel that group is at right now?
Michaela Transu's been a part of our staff for 3 years, and I've been preparing for her to take over the offense. So she worked alongside Chris Malvo for all those 3 years, and so nothing has changed in terms of terminology and mechanics and things like that. We've just gotten more aggressive with our mental side. We have a better game plan going in. We have a very, very strong approach. They're starting to understand how to eliminate pitches, and I think what really held us back, if you look at our team last year, is we were not very disciplined against the All-American pitchers, the best pitchers in the country. We still tried to hit everything. So they were controlling the game, where the best hitters are going to be able to eliminate some of those pitches, and that's what we've really been working on.
From a pitching standpoint, obviously black and gold game, we got to see a little bit of Lauren, a little bit of Jordan. Where do you feel like, how much do you feel like they've grown? Obviously they were a younger group last year, gotten a little bit more experience under their belt, but where do you feel like they're at now?
The two of them are so ready to go, and all five of them really are, but I think Jordan and Krings have really elevated their game. And what's been interesting, because we've been doing inter-squad scrimmages for probably the last 2 weeks and maybe even to 3 weeks, they're starting to tell me how they want to attack hitters. And once the pitcher's starting to do that, then I know they're understanding the game a lot more. They're understanding what result they're trying to get. They're starting to read swings, which they weren't able to do last year at this time at all.
Where do you feel like the excitement level is at to kind of almost pick up where you left off a little bit, or do you kind of feel like it's more of a fresh start since you have that returning roster? Well, what's kind of the mentality on that?
It's kind of like we just had a pause. You know, we picked up where we left off in September. The excitement was really there. We continue to grow and bring along our freshmen and our younger players. And then this entire January has been outstanding, like just been focused and doing everything they possibly can. I'm excited to see how excited they are tomorrow at practice. Like to be outside and on dirt. I'm probably going to have to tone them down a little bit because I know they're going to be a little jacked up and probably a little giddy, but that's a good thing, right?
Yeah. Well, finally, those early games where you get some tests, like you get Liberty, you get Virginia Tech, how important is it to get that experience early on, and how much do you stress those games, or do you stress those games any more than another game?
The last thing I tell anybody, our team, before we play our first game and before we're going to get on the bus tomorrow, is there isn't anything that anybody is going to do that you're not prepared for. You're prepared for everything, so we never ever have to change our approach and our results. They just can't try to do too much. That's the biggest thing. But what's going to do when we play Virginia Tech and when we play Liberty and all the teams that we're playing this weekend, they'll expose our weakness, and that's what we need to do. We need to have those weaknesses exposed so we know what we need to improve on throughout the year.
Really quick, I didn't want to touch on your contract extension. Obviously, a lot of people I talk to very excited about that as well. Kind of your reaction to getting to stick around here and talk a little bit about the community support you've gotten as well.
Yeah, I mean, coming off what we did last year, the excitement around this program and the community and Mizzou softball is electric. And carrying into recruiting. And my contract only had 2 more years on it, and I was recruiting the 2023 class. I wasn't going to be here for that class. So getting that contract extension has allowed our recruiting to be more consistent, to have it a little bit more comfortable. But I'm just excited for our leadership. I'm excited to work with Desiree. I really like her vision of the program and where she's going to take this athletic department. So I'm just looking forward to being here as long as everybody wants me.